101. Company Conditions. Bronia was on edge at Klipputh Fort. Miss Eno had said the situation could be handled even without the Nameless intervening, but once she learned the Great Mine had been occupied by the company's mecha forces, she couldn't stop worrying. She stayed tense until messages came through from Gepard and Seal. Bronia, all of the company's forces have withdrawn. It looks like the defense system Miss Eno left behind did its job, Gepard reported. Rendezvous with the underworld immediately and check on citizens' injuries and property damage, Bronia ordered. Yes, ma'am, Gepard confirmed. Only then did Bronia let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Bronia, those strange units just retreated from the Great Mine, Seal added. Seely, you're unharmed, right? Nothing happened? Bronia asked. Didn't you tell me not to provoke them yet? Seal replied. If they hadn't retreated, the underworld and the Silvermane guards would have clashed with them. Judging by the weapons and mechs they used, their strength was far beyond ours. If it had come to blows, I'm afraid we'd have been outmatched. Good that everyone's safe, Bronia said. I already sent Gepard to check on injuries and damage. Help out where you can and watch for looting. People might try to take advantage of the chaos. I know the underworld better than you do, Seal answered. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Bronia wiped cold sweat from her forehead and rose to thank Miss Eno. Miss Eno, your prediction was right. The company's forces have completely withdrawn. But if the company's true objective is to find you, wouldn't that? She swallowed the rest. She knew perfectly well that if the company truly wanted to drag Miss Eno into something, no one in Belobog could meaningfully resist. Ah, Bronia, March 7th said. If things are really as I predicted, you don't need to worry about me. The company is looking for me because they want something from me. No sooner had she spoken than Gepard's message came through. Topaz would like to arrange a meeting with Miss Eno. Tell Topaz I'll wait here, March 7th replied. Sometime later, Topaz returned to Klipputh Fort. Miss Topaz, if the company wants Miss Eno's help, they could just say so, Bronia said. No need to make everyone so tense, and to make an extra trip for it. Topaz smiled apologetically and stroked Numby. I'm following procedure, but Miss Eno prefers directness, so I'll be frank. If Miss Eno agrees to return to Pierpoint with me, the company's debt to Gerilo 6 will be completely forgiven. There would, of course, be additional compensation if she helps. Star suddenly reached out and, in a distinctly mournful tone, called to Miss Eno. Miss Eno, are we really parting here? Oh no, if you won't be with us on future journeys, then I. March 7th turned her head away, pretending not to know Star. Don't worry, she said lightly. A genius isn't something the company can just poach, and it's not impossible for you to come along. If a high-ranking officer likes you, becoming an employee above P40 isn't out of the question. Star's interruption broke the tension, and the mood in the room relaxed considerably. So, what exactly does the company want me to do? March 7th asked. Topaz lowered her head. They didn't tell me in detail, but since Miss Averly was the ultimate winner of the debate, it's probably to deal with the Rupert differential engine. That thing has been a headache for the Technology Development Department for hundreds of Amber eras. It's no harm to explain. The Rupert differential engine was a differential engine personally developed by number 27 Emperor Rupert I. Rupert I died before he could use it. The device only appeared prominently during the Second Emperor War. During that war, it continuously improved its computing and decision-making abilities. Miss Averly even believed it had the potential to become a third-generation emperor. After the war, the wreckage of the engine was sealed in various company research institutes. Ever since, the company has wanted to use even a fraction of the Rupert differential engine's computing power. Unfortunately, it's not like any ordinary Emperor artifact. No matter which piece you take, devices combined with it are invaded by the anti-organic equation and automatically disintegrate after overloading. To this day, the company hasn't figured out how the Emperor embedded equations into these inert parts to make them resonate continually. If anyone can make a breakthrough, it would naturally be Miss Eno. March 7th hesitated. Actually, I wonder why the company only came to Gerilo 6 now. With their resources, they should have known I joined the Astral Express long ago. Topaz gave an embarrassed, polite smile. I'm ashamed to say it's the company's bureaucracy. Peerpoint certainly learned of your becoming a Nameless earlier than the Xianzhou Alliance did, and they understood what a genius who could casually break the anti-organic equation would mean to them. But different departments argued over how to contact you. It took several rounds of meetings to reach a consensus. Some were worried I might create Rupert III. There was nervous laughter. There were indeed such worries, but that's not the main reason. From what I know, Miss Averly and Osvaldo Schneider argued fiercely over priorities. Whether to first ask you to deal with the inorganic legions harassing the company's fleet in the Market Development Department's operations, or to tackle the Rupert differential engine. Osvaldo Schneider, March 7th murmured. I remember that name. That man used to be a Nameless as well, Topaz said. Perhaps he assumed you'd help him first, but his idea of the trailblaze is self-serving. He advocates using any means, even force, to conquer other civilizations. If he'd been sent to Geralova 6, he wouldn't have been easy to deal with. Knowing you and Geralova 6 have deep ties, the higher-ups decided against him. Star and March 7th listened with interest as Topaz continued. His most effective tactic is to stoke conflict within a planet, play factions against each other, then step in as mediator during the Civil War and take a portion of both sides' interests for himself. Armed occupation is costly, Topaz said dryly. Stirring up internal strife and then presiding over justice preserves reputation and cuts expenses. What kind of Nameless is that? He's almost identical to Fantelia. Fantelia, so the intelligence really exists. But, Miss Topaz, Osvaldo, he's one of your colleagues, right? Is it really okay to speak ill of him in front of us? Miss March, have you never heard the saying, the customer is God and a competitor is the enemy? The relationship between the Strategic Investment Department and the Market Development Department is, well, maybe a little better than the one between the Xianzhou Alliance and the Abundance followers. Is it really that bad? Aren't they all colleagues who believe in preservation? Osvaldo used to be a Nameless. How would you, as a fellow Nameless, judge him? Well, I think I understand a little now. Then I'll continue. After multiple rounds of arguments between the Technology Development Department and the Market Development Department, the Talent Incentive Department got involved. Manager Jan Shiro wanted to use Miss Ino's skills to build a more complete talent management system for the company. In the end, it was Diamond and Teravon Keen, two emissaries of preservation, who said, "Don't push this." Having Miss Ino help the Technology Development Department was already an honor for the company, and that settled the dispute. All right, I think that's the background. Miss Ino, what will you decide? Of course, there's no rush. Please rest assured that even if you decide not to go to Pierpoint, the company won't make things difficult for Geralova 6. I'll wait at the entrance of Belobog until you've made up your mind. When Topaz finished speaking, she stepped back from Klipoth Fort. It just so happens things in Belobog are wrapped up, so a trip to Pierpoint isn't a bad idea. Since the company is inviting me to help with a problem, they won't make things hard for me. We probably won't be much help. Oh, by the way, how long will we stay in Pierpoint this time? Hard to say. I made it clear to them I have to be back before the Astral Express warps to the Asdana system. All right, the company's not easy to judge as either good or bad. You're going to headquarters alone, so be careful. Don't let a bunch of schemers trick you. I will. Stepping outside Klipoth Fort, Ino exhaled. My emotions feel so mixed right now. There's the nervousness of going somewhere unfamiliar, the excitement of visiting an unknown region, and a little anger. Is it because of the company's test? It is, and it isn't. Mostly I'm upset that I don't have any accomplishments that impress them. I don't want to get anything out of the company, but some will see it as, it's not that I won't, it's that I can't. So they used Jurilo VC's debts to test my attitude and my true abilities. If I hadn't modified Belobog's machine's source code, the company would probably have been even harsher. If it weren't for Alicia, I might have actually, just once, taken down the Interstellar Peace Corporation's network for a bit, just to show them what I can do. Alicia laughed softly. If you did that, Ino, they'd be scrambling to beg you to stop. So why did you give up in the end? Because of what? Ino swallowed, and then decided, because it wasn't worth it. The most beautiful person in the entire universe is right beside me. Spending time looking at Alicia is far more important than doing something I'd later regret out of a moment's anger. Then how about doing something more direct than just looking? Ino didn't resist. When their bodies came together again, Alicia's hand slid through Ino's hair and every tight muscle eased. Seeing Topaz waiting outside Belobog, Ino felt much calmer. Alicia, however, seemed a little nervous, perhaps shy. "It seems you're ready. Please proceed." They boarded Topaz's ecological ship. Compared with the Astral Express, Topaz's vessel was shorter, but had several times the internal usable space. They hadn't gone far when raised voices drifted down the corridor. "Being your roommate is 8 lifetimes of bad luck." "Quiet. I hid on a tiny asteroid for 6 or 7 years just to get into the company, and then went through 17 rounds of interviews. You people who got in through the back door have no idea how I felt." 17 rounds of interviews. Topaz and Ino exchanged the same astonished look. "Reaching P16 and becoming an entry-level employee isn't that hard. I've been around a long time, and I've never seen someone like that." Before Topaz could speak, a supervisor rushed over and scolded them. "I don't care why you're arguing. Both of you, quiet down. This is a formal warning. If I catch you again, none of you will get your performance bonus this month." The 2 employees glared but fell silent and shuffled away. "That area over there." "Yeah, that's the employee housing. Entry-level staff usually share rooms on the company's corporate ships. The last one to arrive is their team leader. He's licensed to pilot mechs and can often rent a 1-bedroom apartment on the corporate ships, but the mech he pilots is company property, and any damage has to be paid for by him personally." "Humph. Oink, oink." Numby, cradled in Topaz's arms, fidgeted. "I know, it's almost dinner time. Hang on a little longer. We'll be there soon. Sorry you had to listen to that. Please come with me." Ino and Topaz stepped into the elevator. Topaz extended her thumb and pressed just below the panel. The dull elevator buttons lit up, and without any other movement, the lift began to move on its own, arriving at the ecological ship's upper deck. "Miss Ino, may I have the honor of dining with you? If you like, we can discuss anything you want in detail." "That's fine. Honestly, I don't care much whether I eat or not." "Then please follow me." Topaz led Ino into a dining room with a large round table set with cold dishes and desserts. Topaz tossed a cake roll into the air. Numby sprang up and snatched it down in one bite. Before long, the plates of desserts on the table were all gone. Numby had cleaned everything up. Looks like it really was hungry. After it finished, Numby let out a satisfied belch and, oddly obedient, curled up at Topaz's feet. Topaz lifted her wine glass toward Ino. "Miss Ino, please?" Ino glanced at the half-filled glass of red wine in front of her. She picked it up, copied Topaz by swirling it twice, and drank. A sweetness spread across her tongue. The warmth of the alcohol rising to her head felt a little uncomfortable. Even a genius with endless inspiration needs resources to realize their ideas, and the company has plenty of those. "Do you have any urgent goals you want to accomplish?" "Once we reach Pier Point, I'll put in a report right away." Ino's eyes flickered. She did have something she wanted done soon, but the company might not be capable of it, and she didn't answer. To avoid an awkward silence, Topaz changed the subject. "Who do you expect to deal with you at Pier Point besides Averly? Diamond, or maybe Tara Van Keen? Having an emissary with them is the company's most cost-effective way to keep me in check." "Ah, ha ha. Of course. Since you agreed to come to Pier Point, we don't think you'll cause trouble. If they send someone, it'll be to prevent accidents." What Ino didn't realize was how anxious Topaz really was underneath her composed surface. When Diamond had said that successful completion of this mission would qualify Topaz for promotion to P46, Topaz understood how difficult that would be. In the company, the higher the rank, the harder it is to move up. Unless someone turned the tide in a major crisis and saved the organization from collapse, there wouldn't be a third P49 even after 2,000 Amber Eras. And successfully complete was more than just escorting Ino from Jerryloaf 6 to Pier Point. The company, whose fortunes came from information asymmetry, wanted Topaz to get every piece of intelligence she could from the youngest genius. If any of that information was something even the Xianzhou Alliance didn't have, its value would skyrocket. As a company executive skilled in business, Topaz knew that when you couldn't use force or threats, the best way to get information was to cater to the other person's tastes. If she could talk shop with a genius in a professional field, she wouldn't be just a P45 executive. Outside professional subjects, geniuses were among the most eccentric beings in the universe. All past experience could be useless. So, Topaz turned to what she knew best, dining. How to give a being that didn't need to eat a truly pleasant meal. The venue, the color of the walls, the shape and size of the table, which dish the guest sees first, even the lighting, all mattered. She'd renovated restaurants for important clients countless times. But now she had a problem. She needed to know Eno well enough to put her in a good mood, and she was inviting her precisely because she didn't know her at all. To break the loop, Topaz stopped overthinking it. Her plan was simple: offer lots of food and watch. Miss Eno, my ecological ship stores many kinds of food. Anything you prefer? Topaz asked. Different people required different approaches. After a short exchange, Topaz decided not to hedge and laid her cards on the table. I don't know either. You decide, Eno said honestly. Her frankness unsettled Topaz. Letting the other person choose is often the hardest option. Topaz paused, then ordered a small portion of every available dish. Eno didn't object. While she steered the conversation, Topaz watched Eno eat, looking for clues to her preferences. Eno's sense of taste worked like anyone else's, but she reacted almost uniformly to different flavors. She wasn't picky. Because eating wasn't necessary for her, she'd never developed food habits or favorites. She sampled dish after dish, chewing and swallowing, and sometimes drifting off a moment after a bite. Topaz's expression shifted from hopeful to disappointed. Well, I couldn't get everything I wanted, but at least I didn't make a bad impression. Let's hope Pierpoint goes smoothly. By the time Eno had tried over 100 dishes, the ecological ship had warped into the star system that contained Pierpoint. Dozens of ships of various models soon materialized ahead and moved to intercept them. Miss Eno, please wait here for a moment. I need to step out and show myself, Topaz said, leaving the room. Alone in the vast chamber again, Eno heard a light, teasing voice. Eno, did you notice? Even though the reasons were different, Topaz was just as nervous as you were. Huh? But she travels all over the universe. She must have met so many people. The universe has so many strange life forms. That only shows that you mean more to Topaz than most people do. She was definitely nervous, but she had to look calm in front of you, trying to find things you'd be interested in while watching you eat. She's really cute. And when she left, she seemed a little regretful, and to steady herself, she patted her own cheek with her back to us. I wish I could have pinched that cheek just then, too. 104, Chapter Omnic Girl. Ah, Alicia, why didn't you say so earlier? If I just let you take control, wouldn't that have been fine? Miss Eno said. Oh, could it be that Miss Eno also finds Topaz very cute and wants to pet her face, but is too embarrassed? Alicia teased in her head. I only care that Alicia is happy, Miss Eno replied. Oh, how touching. Since Miss Eno is so considerate, why don't you keep an eye out for other cute girls in Pierpoint? Alicia sang teasingly. Soon Topaz's ecological ship docked at the assigned berth. Only a few steps away, a woman approached without hurry. She was blonde, wearing a white blouse under a dark blue uniform jacket tied with a yellow bow at the collar, a badge pinned to her chest. Her most striking features were fin-like ears and a blue, shell-shaped ornament set into her forehead. When Miss Eno and Topaz saw her, she saw them too. Her pale pupils swept over them like a scanner, confirmed their identities, and her expression shifted. Genju, I didn't expect to see you here. Surprising, but not unreasonable. What about the rest of your duties? I handed them to Kangang and Amber. They'll handle everything, Genju said, then turned to Miss Eno and extended her right hand. Miss Eno, hello, I'm Genju. Like Topaz, I belong to the Strategic Investment Department's Stoneheart 10. Previously, I was the department's representative, negotiating with Herta to support the Simulated Universe project, especially the Golden Gears sector. I'm also acquainted with Mr. Screwlam. I'll be taking over from Topaz and accompanying you in Pierpoint. Miss Eno hesitated a moment, then took Genju's hand. So, the company sent someone with experience dealing with other geniuses to accompany me? Partly for that reason, Genju replied. But more importantly, the company wants to show its trust in you. While they shook hands, Miss Ino subconsciously sent a probing virus toward Genju. Genju's face registered nothing but a soft smile. You're an omniscient machine? Miss Ino asked. Exactly. Any security protocols on me are useless against you. If you wish, you can control me at any time. I will act entirely according to your will. Topaz, your mission is complete, Miss Ino said to the departing Omnic. It wasn't perfect, but you brought me here safely. I'm sure Diamond will give you a proper reward. Also, Aventurine will be in touch soon, probably about Penacony, Topaz finished. What? Miss Ino's eyebrows rose. Diamond convinced the famous Taravan Keen that the Penacony project will be handled by the Strategic Investment Department, not Market Development, Genju explained with a small, pleased lift to her voice. So Aventurine will likely reach out. Miss Ino noticed Genju's tone brighten like someone who just received a gift. That's wonderful news. I mean, why would Diamond pick Aventurine? I thought a project of Penacony's scale would involve a P46 level manager, someone like Opal or Dragon Crystal. I just received the briefing, Genju said. He's in Pierpoint now. You can ask him directly. From what I know of him, he'll probably assign you as the project manager for this trip. Topaz glanced at Ms. Ino, then took her leave. Miss Ino, sorry to keep you. The company wants to make sure your trip to Penacony isn't delayed. The company is thoughtful, Ms. Ino said. Could it be they've arranged just enough time for the tasks to be finished before I leave, and then I'll go to Penacony with their representative? You jest, Genju replied. No one in the company claims to be able to judge a genius's efficiency. Since you're letting me study the Rupert differential engine yourself, why are you the only one here? Where is the Technology Development Department? Ms. Averley probably only recently learned that you're willing to come to Pierpoint, Genju said. The three components of the Rupert differential engine, the Rupert Imperial Mechanical Gear, the Rupert Imperial Mechanical Lever, and the Rupert Imperial Mechanical Piston, will likely need a long, careful extraction process. There's nothing to be done, Genju continued. The company went through both Emperor Wars. Without your abilities, they're understandably cautious when faced with Rupert artifacts they don't fully understand. So please bear with us. Allow me to give you a tour of Pierpoint, and when the time is right, the Technology Development Department will send someone to you. I know you may be displeased with the company's sudden manner of inviting you. I can't apologize for the Technology Development Department, but please understand, any life form is suspicious of what it cannot comprehend. Your casual cracking of the anti-organic equation far exceeded their cognitive framework. Even though you're a genius, they might suspect the matter was manufactured by an imaginary historian or a masked fool. If they can witness it firsthand, you won't even need to argue. Then the company, no, the whole organization will stop interfering with your schedule. Miss Ino wasn't really listening to Genju's explanation. She was staring at her, replaying Alicia's earlier remarks in her head, and finally asked, What do you think of Genju? What do you think, Miss Ino? Alicia chimed mentally. She's similar to Topaz, Miss Ino said aloud. She's a different sort from Topaz. I sense Genju is very sunny, lively, and emotionally rich, a bright, youthful beauty, Alicia replied. How you interact with her, that's up to you. Miss Ino stood frozen, about to speak but unsure how. Genju stepped closer and waited patiently. Well, Miss Ino's thoughts churned, but the right words wouldn't form. Seeing Alicia's expectant look, she forced herself forward. How much authority do I have here? Authority. Tell me what you need, Genju answered. Including. Miss Ino felt the phrase trapped on the tip of her tongue. She glanced at Alicia again, clenched her jaw, and summoning all her courage, blurted out to Genju, including, what I want to do to you. Alicia's laughter, clear and silver bell-like, rippled through Miss Ino's head. Miss Ino, treating someone you've just met like this, you really are a genius. Heat flooded Miss Ino's face. She looked around, wishing for any crack in the ground to hide in. Genju, however, was much calmer than Miss Ino had feared. Before Miss Ino could backtrack, Genju answered serenely, Please do. Those words made Miss Ino even more nervous. Aren't you afraid? Genju shook her head almost imperceptibly. Firstly, regardless of what you mean, I have no way to resist you. Secondly, by my own will, publicly, if I can fulfill your desires, it will raise both the company's and the strategic investment department's standing in your estimation. Privately, within the scope of my functions, experiencing something with a genius of Miss Eno's beauty and intellect, both top tier in the universe, offers me no disadvantage. So please, if you wish, I consent. 105. Peer point. Miss Eno, this way, and then this way. Is that enough? Thank you for your cooperation. Back in control of the body, Alicia clapped her hands onto Zhenju's cheeks and rubbed them up and down. So this is what a sentient machine feels like. It's different from how other people feel. Eno watched Alicia start touching Zhenju at once and felt two emotions at the same time. One was simple pleasure at seeing Alicia so happy. The other was a prickling discomfort at Alicia's boldness. Is that jealousy? No, it didn't feel that strong. A cool, soft touch landed on her face. Alicia had, at some point, cupped Eno's cheek and smiled. Sorry, it's my first time seeing such a cute mechanical maiden. I couldn't resist for a moment, and I made Eno a little jealous. Louse! Oh dear, it looks like I'll have to compensate you properly now. After much that could be left out here, Alicia returned control of the body to Eno. Zhenju stood beside her like an NPC guiding the protagonist through a quest. Oh right, she was an NPC. Zhenju, just now. Please be assured, you did nothing but come into close contact with my chassis, especially my face. Lead the way. Understood. Please follow me. They moved forward together. The crowd thickened and the diversity of life forms on Pierpoint unfolded. Some resembled snails, others unfurled feathered wings in a flash, and a few switched between solid and liquid states with no warning. The company values ability over origin, Zhenju said conversationally. To be able to come to Pierpoint means each of them has a unique skill, something that generates profit for the company. That kind of value drowns out any complaints about species. Zhenju nodded to acquaintances as they passed and stopped at a device that looked like a vending machine. She tapped the screen and a can dropped into the dispenser. Eno glanced at the label, an extravagant font reading Black Forest Engine Oil. Zhenju twisted off the cap and, as if she were human drinking mineral water, poured the engine oil into her mouth and drained half the bottle in one go. A few steps away, another machine offered what looked like sushi. Eno's interest made Zhenju lead her closer. The pieces gleamed metallically, small fires licked out from their centers. These are sushi from the reductionist sushi school, Zhenju explained. According to unreliable historical records, there was once only one form of sushi, back when ancient beasts still roamed the cosmos. When order collapsed and gluttony vanished, that original sushi worship split into many schools. The reductionists' philosophy is simple. Sushi is the essence of energy wrapped in an edible skin. So in their view, the object in the universe that best fits sushi is an internal combustion engine. In practice, that claim didn't win many converts, so the company labeled it high-heat cuisine. It's become a useful quick-calorie source for some inorganic life forms. You're organic by all tests, and you consider yourself organic, of course. But if you try it, don't expect it to taste anything like what the word delicious implies. This body does register as an organic life form in every test, and I subjectively regard myself as organic, Eno said slowly. But I'm not sure how others will categorize me, organic or inorganic. Zhenju picked up the keywords and considered them, then asked, could you explain more? About my race. Once word got out that I'd deciphered the anti-organic equation, I'm sure the company has all sorts of guesses. That's right, maybe you don't know, but when news of your decoding reached the Erudition Society, it caused an uproar. Some think you're an extremely rare race, born with a talent for interpreting different abilities. Others worry you could write a virus stronger than the anti-organic equation and overwrite beings controlled by it. And some are blunt, suspecting you can naturally control certain individuals within a range, independent of the equation. Those guesses aren't entirely wrong, Eno said. It's just none of them hit the real point, Zhenju finished. Any species can only speculate within its own frame of reference. For a genius who can overturn fields with a flash of insight, it's normal for outsiders not to guess correctly. Take number 56. Iliasaurus, when he invented the synesthetic astrolabe and superluminal remote sensing, he allowed the Erudition Society free study of it. They only managed to replicate it long after his death. In other words, if a scholar in the Erudition Society could quickly decode a genius work, then they'd be the next genius basked in erudition. Come this way, please. They climbed a gangway, and Eno caught sight of a figure, a child in a top hat leaning on a cane and chewing a pacifier, hurrying into the room ahead. A naturally small stature, Eno thought. Compared to creatures who could liquefy in an instant, he was considered normal here. Voices spilled across the walkway, heated and loud. Hey, tell me, if the company and the Xianzhou Alliance went to war, who'd win? That's obvious, the company. How long has the company existed, and how old is the Xianzhou Alliance? You're already P36. You don't actually think the company only has Diamond and Teravan Kian, the two emissaries of preservation, do you? But the hunt. You really think if the company and the Xianzhou Alliance fought, the hunt would back the Xianzhou? The hunt and the Xianzhou use each other. Xianzhou plays the target up front to attract abundance followers, and the hunt shoots arrows. Otherwise, why would the hunt, after ascending to godhood, have stood by while two Xianzhou ships, Juke and Kangcheng, crashed? Eno's mind jumped at those names. Juke? Kangcheng? Since the hunt's ascension, when had two Xianzhou ships ever crashed? Whoever was arguing clearly didn't even know how many Xianzhou ships there were, or what they were called. Before comparing combat power, they hadn't even learned the basic facts. 106. Chapter Floating Island. The two who had been arguing about combat power fell silent and became deferential when they saw Zhenju approach. Director Zhenju, they greeted. Zhenju didn't even glance at them. Only after she was out of earshot did she speak sharply. I really don't understand what the Market Development Department's recruitment standards have become. Miss Eno, please excuse them. The question they were debating is one a lot of people would ask, Eno said. What do you think? If it's just a pastime, it doesn't matter, Zhenju replied. But taken seriously, it shows a catastrophic gap in the intelligence module. The basic premises are wrong, so any conclusion they draw is meaningless. The Antimatter Legion, the Abundance Followers, the Swarm, inorganic legions still corrupted by the anti-organic equation, and countless Pathstriders tainted by the destruction, the abundance, the propagation, and the nihility have already left this universe full of holes. If the company and the Xianzhou Alliance ever fought a full-scale war, the damage to the galaxy would be no less than another swarm disaster or emperor war. For neither profit nor righteousness would the company risk that. She stopped at the end of the pier. Miss Eno, we've arrived. Beyond the pier, the starfield opened wide. Eno looked around. There was no one else. Zhenju pointed upward. There, your final destination for this trip. Eno squinted and made out a floating island, suspended in the sky. That's a floating island built by the Technology Development Department for experiments. It has a special gravitational field. Anything entering its airspace, ships, projectiles, anything that flies, will malfunction under that field. And anything or anyone on the island trying to leave is interfered with as well. In extreme cases, if a lab incident threatens Pierpoint, the company can detonate the whole island to prevent harm to the city. Zhenju produced 2 pairs of blue and white boots that looked like ice skates. When Dr. Primitive escaped the Sea Rangers, he used a gravity capture technique to move through space using gravity alone. The Erudition Society's astrophysicists never fully understood the principle. They only guessed that the gravitational differences between planets were core to it. They couldn't replicate Dr. Primitive's device, but they adapted the idea and made these boots to move freely inside a limited gravitational range. They're crude and have a short lifespan. The internal mechanisms burn out after a few uses. Think of them as a degraded genius invention. Despite their flaws, they've strengthened Pierpoint's safety. Now, put them on. To reach the island, you must use them. If the Rupert differential engine malfunctions, if the anti-organic equation threatens to spread to Pierpoint, that counts as a very dangerous situation, right? Eno asked. Yes. Then you're still coming with me? Yes. Aside from receiving you, my job is to act as the company's assurance to win your trust. I'll go with you. If anything goes wrong, don't feel responsible. Use your abilities to control me. Genju paused, then spoke with rare frankness. Every life is a bet. No one knows whether tomorrow will come or whether an accident. We rely on instinct, analysis, and experience to dodge disaster and reach another day. I believe, Miss Ino, you can help me reach a better tomorrow. I'm willing to stake everything on you. She added, a little wryly. It isn't my usual style. It's more like something Topaz would do. He began as a slave in Chiganya and rose to the Stonehearts. His methods clearly have something to learn from. I want to run an experiment with you. Hearing that, Ino gave no objection. She took a pair of the boots from Genju and put them on. So how do I get to the floating island? Just walk into the starry sky, as if you were walking normally. Genju indicated the edge of the pier. There were no railings. Ino stepped one foot off the platform, pushed with the other, and leapt. Immediately, she felt the island's gravitational field take hold. Her body drifted toward it. Genju followed closely and appeared at her back. Think of it like a very unusual escalator, she said. If it feels slow, try walking toward the island. Ino took a step forward and was astonished to find she could move through space as easily as across solid ground. After a while, the field drew her onto the floating island. When her boots touched real ground, she felt almost unreal. Waiting to greet her was a beautiful woman flanked by a group of people in scholarly dress. The woman at the front was presumably Averly, head of the Technology Development Department and patron of the Erudition Society. Beside Averly stood a young man who looked Xianzhou in origin but had white hair and eyebrows. Genju's manner toward them suggested they outranked her. Averly stepped forward and extended her right hand. Miss Ino, your acceptance of our invitation honors both the company and the Technology Development Department. This gentleman is Yan Shiro of P47, one of the heads of the Talent Incentive Department. Ino shook Averly's hand, then Yan Shiro offered his right hand. His smile felt strained. Hello, Miss Ino. It's a pleasure. I heard that before you came to Pierpoint, you helped Luofu resolve the Fantelia crisis. Averly snorted. Supervisor Yan, the Talent Incentive Department is only here to observe, not to promote. Haha, Miss Averly, you misunderstand. I'm from Xianzhou. I merely wanted to thank Miss Ino for protecting Luofu, nothing more. Averly glanced at Ino, but Ino's expression had shifted. Only she and Alicia knew that the moment Ino shook Yan Shiro's hand, two unforgettable names surfaced in his memory. Hua, Lin Chaoyu. 107. Eye-opening chapter. Miss Ino deliberately dampened the erosion so Yan Shiro would not notice her reading his memory. During the few seconds of the handshake, the information she pulled in never formed clear images. Still, she was now certain that the Hua in Yan Shiro's memory was the marshal of the Xianzhou alliance. The blurred figure in his recollection gradually aligned with the one in her own mind. She had not expected to get her answer at Pierpoint. It seems I won't need Jing Yuan to send a portrait after all, but it's good to have confirmation. Averly watched Miss Ino with mild curiosity, but assumed she was only considering how to handle the Rupert differential engine. When Miss Ino turned her attention back to the group, Averly raised a hand in a polite gesture and led them into the adjacent room. The test chamber was large and austere. Directly in front of Miss Ino were three transparent cabinets made of a special material, each housing a component of the Rupert triad. The room was shielded to block electromagnetic interference from every angle, preventing the anti-organic equation from affecting electronics or organic life. Aside from the Rupert components, only diagnostic machinery dotted the space. Two researchers nervously opened the cover of one cabinet and gestured toward a single, independently vibrating gear. Miss Ino stepped closer without any protective gear and laid a hand on it. Is this another segment of the anti-organic equation? She asked. Seeing its inner mechanism gave Miss Ino an involuntary admiration for Rupert 1. She could not have designed an anti-organic equation capable of this from scratch, but making it stop was trivial for her. She and Rupert 1 were different kinds of problem solvers. Where Rupert excelled at constructing intricate, multi-step solutions, she specialized in seeing whether a final result was correct. If writing a virus were an exam, she could ace the multiple-choice and quick-answer sections. Rupert would score higher on the complex problem sets. To the researcher's eyes, Miss Ino simply touched the gear. Its vibration slowed and then stopped within moments. Before they could process what happened, one of them blurted out, wide-eyed, "Miss Eno, how? How did you do that?" Miss Eno turned to him calmly. "I used a virus with higher priority than the anti-organic equations code to overwrite the code Rupert left on the gear." The researchers stared in disbelief. Averly felt the difference between hearing a rumor and witnessing it herself. If the Technology Development Department could secure cooperation with Miss Eno, the department's gains would likely rival Herta's. She forced herself to keep her questions minimal. "Never mind. Please continue." Miss Eno then intercepted the vibrations emanating from a nearby lever and piston. Under Averly's direction, several researchers carefully mounted the lever into an analyzer. As soon as the Rupert lever was embedded, the machine's computational power leapt exponentially. There were no further signs of any hostile activity toward organic systems. Everyone present exhaled in relief, except Miss Eno, who regarded the machinery with clinical interest. Averly, eager to capitalize on the situation, began to speak before anyone else could. "Miss Eno, I believe your abilities will benefit the entire universe. The company will file patents immediately. Anyone who wants to use any part you've processed will need to pay licensing fees." Yanshiro cut her off with a chuckle. "With Miss Eno's abilities, money is just a number. If you cooperate with the Talent Motivation Department, I'll recruit whatever people you need, and you'll have the authority to mobilize all personnel below P45 under my command." Averly took back control of the conversation. "Do you think Miss Eno lacks manpower? Whether it's the other Nameless on the Astral Express or the inorganic legion she created herself, aren't they all stronger than the underlings below you? Miss Eno, if you join forces with the Technology Development Department, we'll give you any experimental environment you want. You'll also have free access to all Erudition Society experimental data." Yanshiro laughed. Miss Averly still likes to joke. "Do you really think the Erudition Society's defenses could stop Miss Eno? She can view anything she wants without asking permission. The Talent Motivation Department has the widest network among the 7 departments. If you ever need cooperation with others, I can introduce the right contacts." The 2 P47 department heads argued back and forth, each trying to outbid the other for Ms. Eno's allegiance. The researchers exchanged awkward looks, unsure how to react. Eventually, Averly invoked departmental property rights and arranged for Yanshiro to be escorted from the floating island, politely but firmly. "Miss Eno," Averly said, changing tack, "the Technology Development Department has assessed Broken Star, the place where the company first met you, as having enormous potential. I want to develop Broken Star into your exclusive experimental area. It would make research easier and create employment opportunities for the local population. What do you think?" Miss Eno remembered her first meeting with everyone on the Astral Express. "Fine. Let's improve the environment there first." Averly's face brightened instantly. The Technology Development Department might genuinely be able to help Miss Eno achieve what she most wanted, but Averly still didn't fully trust the company. When it came to Alicia, she would choose Screwlum or the Xianzhou Alliance before the company. To Miss Eno, however, the decision was trivial, like picking up an eraser that had rolled to her feet. To Averly, Miss Eno's help was immeasurably valuable. Miss Eno smiled inwardly at the thought. If the company couldn't even estimate the value of solving the Rupert differential engine, that meant she could set her price when she needed the Technology Development Department's help in the future. Chapter 108, Faith Bond. When Eno returned to Pierpoint from the floating island, Zhenju led her to a house whose exterior colors matched her own palette. "This is my residence in Pierpoint, Miss Eno. If you get tired from exploring the city, you're welcome to rest here anytime. According to the Interstellar Peace Corporation's official announcement, reaching P36 gives one the opportunity for long-term employment here. So does that mean—" "Oh, the corporation isn't that charitable." Zhenju smiled. "Housing prices in Pierpoint are among the highest in the galaxy. A few finance staff, between P36 and P39, nobody knows exactly why, bought villas in central Pierpoint. Decades passed in the Amber Era, and they still hadn't paid off their mortgages. Some of them ended up imprisoned for embezzling public funds. If they hadn't bought villas in Pierpoint, they could have at least afforded a Topaz model ecological vessel," Eno said. Zhenju produced a small rectangular strip of paper, yellow, white, and purple, with a portrait in the center and numbers stamped above and below. This is a faith bond issued by the corporation. According to the official description, employees promoted to P40 may subscribe to faith bonds. It signifies Louis Fleming's endorsement and comes with a sacred promise that you will have a place in the Amber Lord's destined preservation endeavor. Your skills are small, your wealth negligible, your faith a speck of dust in the star ocean. But generation after generation of you will gather strength and eventually possess the power to protect the entire universe. Zhenju's tone turned dry. Of course, the primary purpose of issuing faith bonds is the original purpose of bonds, fundraising. Whether it's Louis Fleming's affirmation or a place in the Amber Lord's preservation, the rhetoric is designed to appeal to emotion over reason. When life's emotions drive behavior, people make impulsive purchases. But to get employees above P40 to buy them, empty promises aren't enough. People buy bonds because they expect profit within a cycle, so... She let the sentence hang. So the corporation links housing in Pierpoint to the purchase of faith bonds? The corporation established a set of rules. Employees who subscribe to faith bonds receive different degrees of discount on Pierpoint housing depending on how much they buy. They get priority low-interest mortgages, and if they can't repay on time, they're eligible for extensions. Zhenju's smile was thin. You get the idea. Even with a synesthesia beacon since birth, Ino found herself at a loss for words. She thought for a long time and still couldn't find the right way to respond. Don't be surprised. If there's a 10% profit, capital will circulate across the galaxy. At 20%, it becomes active galaxy-wide. At 50%, it starts taking risks. At 100%, it ignores laws. At 300%, it will sell the rope to hang itself. Profiting from frontier trade is one thing. Profiting from P40 employees is another. To the corporation, both are just profit. Then, Zhenju, you're owning a residence in Pierpoint. Is that also? For the first time, Zhenju turned away and answered indirectly. Miss Ino, I have something Miss Herta gave me here. I wonder if you'd be interested. Eily, did I say something wrong again? Ino's internal assistant pinged. It looks like there's a story. It's normal for a charming young woman like Zhenju to have little secrets. You don't need to pry. Don't ask more until your relationship with her deepens. Ino followed Zhenju into the house, which had a distinctive interior. An android maid presented a small plate to Zhenju. The packaging looked like toothpaste. Miss Ino, judging by your face, Miss Herta probably hasn't told you about this invention yet. Let me explain. The questions, is luck an ability, and can luck be changed, have been argued for several Amber eras. Miss Herta's answer is yes. To prove it, she invented Fortune Gel. Apply it to your eyelids and you'll have 24 system hours of good luck. Ino raised an eyebrow. If anyone could invent something that affected luck, it could be Herta, but skepticism remained. What's in the Fortune Gel? As expected, your first thought is to analyze its ingredients rather than rush to try it. Zhenju laughed lightly. Because being able to reincarnate with Eily and meet more friends is already a tremendous stroke of luck, I dare not ask for more. Ino thought. Zhenju had Ino open her palm and unscrewed the tube. She squeezed a dollop of black paste onto Ino's skin. Ino immediately released a tiny diagnostic virus into the sample and began analyzing its composition. After a few moments, she looked surprised. Polyvinyl alcohol, alginate, menthol. She glanced up. Compared to ordinary face masks, it does contain some rare components, but nothing that directly increases luck. Is Miss Herta relying solely on a psychological placebo? Yes and no. Zhenju's expression was amused. When Herta released it, many staff tried it. The result wasn't surprising. They all had an uneventful day. In this case, an uneventful day was considered very good luck. They weren't thrown into a furnace by the Antimatter Legion, robbed and enslaved by the Abundance followers, or devoured by the Swarm. The galaxy they were in wasn't targeted by Dr. Primitive, nor caught up in battles between Pathstriders or emissaries. They drank coffee and chatted without worrying about the sun suddenly being picked by a star picker, or a scorched Earthwalker descending to set the planet ablaze. They didn't fear the memory thief stealing the entire planet's memories, so no one even knew who they were. Nor did they meet a quirky quack doctor whose treatment causes uncontrollable laughter until bodily functions fail. You see, their luck really was very good. 109. Super Lotto. Perhaps Miss Eno was simply exhausted from dealing with the big names at the Interstellar Peace Corporation, or perhaps she had been on the move non-stop in Pierpoint. In any case, not being good at socializing, she accepted Genju's suggestion to rest at her home after Genju finished explaining the marvelous uses of the auspicious glue. As soon as Miss Eno sank into the sofa, Genju nodded to the robotic maid standing nearby. The maid stepped up to Miss Eno, a panel on its chest slid open, and a light projected a holographic program onto the wall in front of her. Do you want to get rich overnight? Do you want to support the cause of preservation? No complicated procedures, just use your credits to buy a ticket in the Interstellar Lottery. According to the last drawing, Mr. from Epsilon spent 1,000,000 credits and won 10 million. For more details, check the official site or log in to the Interstellar Lottery client. Beware of scams. Only downloads from the link below the video are genuine. Interstellar Lottery? Miss Eno echoed. Miss Eno, the Interstellar Lottery is a form of gambling, Genju said. Its roots go back to the Galactic Lottery launched by the Market Development Department. Its marketing, much like Osvaldo Schneider himself, is all passion and flair. For just one interstellar credit, you can try your luck. It sells the dream that anyone might become a cosmic tycoon and thereby join the commercial system. Under Osvaldo Schneider's promotion, new worlds rarely resist. People buy the ticket, and in doing so, give the Interstellar Peace Corporation the franchise to run galactic lottery activities in their nations. After the Galactic Lottery proved wildly popular, the Business Consolidation Department picked up Osvaldo's vision and rolled out the Interstellar Lottery to replicate that success. They developed 86 supporting industries to promote it alongside the lottery. Shortly after the Interstellar Lottery launched, their appointed spokesperson, the so-called lottery goddess, Baulesi Meli, died under mysterious circumstances. Despite that, more credits flowed into the corporation. Because it made money, the Interstellar Lottery kept running. Later, the Business Consolidation Department even released the Quantum Lottery, which used lottery prediction and analysis as its gimmick. To master probability and extract useful information from randomness, enrollment in the Quantum History School once skyrocketed to levels higher than before its reorganization. From time to time, scholars claim to have found trend models for the Quantum Lottery. Without exception, though, they recanted the day before their papers were published, admitting their discoveries were academic mistakes. The Quantum History School? Why would that be in the Erudition Society? Ms. Eno began. Genju's tone carried a hint of disdain. The Quantum History School claims heritage from the Psychohistory School, which was a group of capable scholars. That predecessor once correctly predicted the demise of 9 stars in Baishi. Their work on future model extrapolation remains unmatched in the Erudition Society. But the Quantum History School, which says it inherited that mantle, is a laughingstock. Miss Herta once put it bluntly, they were originally intended to find hidden disturbance factors and patterns in history to predict the future. Now they're charlatans divining fate with abstruse algorithms. Among the Erudition Society's various schools, the Starry Sky Ecology School, whose discovery of the celestial comet wall was a huge deal, occupies the highest status in the eyes of the Interstellar Peace Corporation. It also gets the most research funding. That prestige, however, is controversial outside the corporation. Some radical scholars in the Commoners Court claim the Starry Sky Ecology School has become nothing more than a corporation dog that survives only on IPC funding. If you ask me personally, that young scholar you mentioned is inexperienced. If Averly refuses the Erudition Society's request for more funding, all research projects across the society will grind to a halt. Miss Eno tilted her head. So the Starry Sky Ecology School didn't respond to that? Miss Eno, what do you mean? That young scholar called the Starry Sky Ecology School a corporation dog? The open and covert struggles in the school wars were far more intense than that. In fact, the Interstellar Peace Corporation doesn't really dislike people or organizations that occasionally hurl verbal attacks. Why not? Because it shows emotion. In trade with some civilizations, the Interstellar Peace Corporation uses a tactic. It offers partial most favored nation treatment or applies armed pressure to provoke local resentment. To resist the influx of corporation goods, local leaders encourage their people to buy national products. The populace, acting on emotion, buys those products en masse, only to discover that the supposedly national products are high-quality, cheap items manufactured by the Interstellar Peace Corporation. From there, the locals have two options: accept it, in which case the corporation floods the market with goods from nearby star systems at dump prices until it dominates the market and then raises prices, or continue to resist, in which case the corporation most hopes for bloodshed. A violent clash gives it a pretext for military occupation. So if someone curses the Interstellar Peace Corporation, the corporation generally won't attack them. Instead, it will try to sell them a megaphone and a recorder so they can shout louder while protecting their vocal cords. Generally, yes, verbal abuse doesn't concern the Interstellar Peace Corporation. What does worry them is anyone who can actually cut into their profits. You're being very direct about the corporation's questionable practices, Miss Eno said. Zhenju's expression remained calm. Is there a problem? Everything I've told you is on record in the Market Development Department and the Erudition Society. Osvaldo once told the leaders of border star civilizations in a semi-public forum, I acknowledge all your accusations and speculations about the Interstellar Peace Corporation, and I intend to proceed exactly as you've guessed. Now, how do you plan to deal with the hammer of preservation? 110. Zhang Duwait. My apologies, Miss Eno. I got carried away. In short, that's why the Starry Sky Ecology School hasn't publicly responded to the accusations from that young scholar in the House of Commoners. Beyond that, some people think the communication faction and the recorder faction's research is more valuable than the Starry Sky Ecology School's work. That opinion carries more weight than the young scholars. Zhenju finished the last of the Black Forest engine oil, set the bottle into the frame extended by the android maid, and watched the mechanism retract the bottle into the maid's body. So, which faction in the Erudition Society has the most influence depends on who you ask, but everyone agrees the Quantum History School is at the bottom. Oh, the Quantum History School, so it's the Erudition Society's Alchemy Commission. The screen switched to another program. Two anchors reported the news. It has been announced that the Erudition Society will soon begin research into space-time curvature. Specific details are expected to be released within 30 system days. Our station notes that although the Society has not revealed the research direction, the announcement has already stirred debate across many sectors. Reporters and survey teams have found a common reason. One of the research leaders is Dr. Dewitt. Dr. Dewitt's expertise is widely respected, but many worry his eccentric ideas will introduce unpredictable variables into the experiment. Under the pretext of structural dynamics research, Dr. Dewitt once hosted a cosmic top competition inside the Society's labs. In the semifinals, the red-nosed old man's antimatter projectile Top battled the opponent's boxing emperor Top for 300 rounds and emerged victorious. To secure a win in the finals, the over-competitive Dr. Dewitt outfitted his overlord Top with multiple devices: a particle destroyer, a sword-shaped devouring projectile, and cheerleader speakers, and intentionally caused an explosion during the final round. More than 100 spectators were injured and hospitalized. After that incident, Erudition Society Article 989 explicitly forbids any scholar from creating tops in society laboratories or holding top competitions under the guise of research. Additionally, Dr. Dewitt once led a team that built the parallel universe walkie-talkie, claimed to detect minute divergences in space-time fluctuations, and connect the two closest divergence points to exchange information. However, in multiple experiments within the Society, users only heard their own echoes on the device. Following those results, most in the Society concluded that some masked fool had tampered with the experiment. Dr. Dewitt, however, insisted his research had succeeded. He argued that the echo proved a high similarity between parallel universes, so similar that even the thoughts of the two parties would be identical. Many scholars dismiss that conclusion as an excuse to save face. They say Dr. Dewitt's experiment, if anything, is strong evidence that parallel universes do not exist between galaxies. Noting that Eno seemed interested in Dr. Dewitt, Genju asked, Miss Eno, do you think this universe is singular or multiple? Multiple. I want to hear your reasoning. Because of erudition. Erudition. First, any aeon's actions can disregard time and space. If the universe is plural, an aeon in one universe could influence or even interfere with another universe, or an aeon might be unique across multiple universes. Both are logically possible. And erudition anchors moments across all major cosmic events, things like the First Emperor War. The outcome of Rupert I was already in erudition's calculations. That result was beyond even the enigmata's ability to alter. Given that, let's assume erudition desires a deterministic universe. If so, what he must do is bring the entire cosmos into his omniscience domain. Now, question the assumption itself. Does erudition want a deterministic universe? The answer seems to be yes. He has already calculated what he considers the best outcome. So to guide all universes toward that best outcome, he would naturally try to keep elements consistent across different universes. Miss Eno, your logic explains why Dr. Dewitt's statements are hard to disprove, but it doesn't prove the universe is necessarily plural. If parallel worlds don't exist, the rest of the argument falls apart. On Earth, people long ago discovered the sea of quanta and confirmed a pattern. The closer a world bubble within the sea of quanta is to the prime world, the more events within that bubble mirror those of the prime world. The existence of parallel worlds had been established on Earth. Welt also demonstrated that Earth and this galaxy belong to the same set of universes. So even if the solar system is a special case, it still confirmed that parallel worlds exist. Given the power of aeons, it's plausible they could interfere across multiple universes. But neither Xianzhou nor the company has any concept of the sea of quanta, so even if this were explained, few here would accept it. Eno said. I'm speculating that aeons are powerful enough to reach into multiple universes. The prerequisite for that is, of course, the existence of multiple universes. Genju let the point drop and continued watching the screen with her. It's also reported that Averly will soon hold an internal meeting of the Technology Development Department. One agenda item is whether the magic science faction should be abolished. Unlike the Starry Sky Ecology School or the Recorder faction, the magic science faction isn't a major, well-known group. Some scholars in the Erudition Society argue that science and magic are the same thing. Advanced science looks like magic, and rigorous magic is science. They take inspiration from ancient fantasy legends and try to use technologies aside from superluminal folding to create lightweight, portable storage devices that link to independent demiplanes with potentially infinite space. They call the idea the Myriad Knowledge Pouch. According to sources, research on the Myriad Knowledge Pouch has yet to produce any major breakthroughs, which is why several administrators, including Averly, are considering terminating the project to cut their losses. 111. Chapter Turning a Blind Eye. Seeing the magic science faction trying to invent the all-knowledge pouch, Eno immediately thought of the Herrscher of the Void. If the all-knowledge pouch connected to imaginary space, the environment there wasn't suitable for storage. The basic rules of physics didn't apply, so anything put in could quickly vanish to who knows where. With the right technology, it could become a garbage disposal, throw any kind of waste into imaginary space, and there would be no danger of polluting the real world. Although she had little hope, Eno still asked, Genju, does the company have any way for people to enter imaginary space directly? Genju didn't understand why Eno had asked, but she searched her memory database anyway. Miss Eno, from the information I can access at my level, the company does not possess that technology. As I thought, Eno exhaled. Then she let Genju steer the conversation elsewhere. Miss Eno, are you interested in visiting the museum? The Pierpoint Museum houses many artifacts, like Skyfall alloy, that are almost impossible to see elsewhere, and many are connected to the Amber Lord himself. Eno nodded. Even P45 employees need to make appointments, but for you, an exception can probably be made. Genju acknowledged that and initiated a call. Yes, this is Genju. I request to speak directly with Supervisor Tian about Miss Eno. Yes. Thank you for the Traditional Project Department's support. Miss Eno, the Traditional Project Department has approved your entry, but you will need to register with me. There have been traces of hacker intrusion in Pierpoint recently, and they are concerned about forged communication records. Eno had rested enough and set off with Genju. Walking, she looked up and remembered something. Oh, right? Pierpoint is right next to Klypoth. Ah, indeed. In Pierpoint, if you find a place with an open view, you can usually see the Amber Lord's divine body. But your timing is unlucky. The Amber Lord just departed the day before yesterday. Klypoth left? Does that happen often? It's not common, but it has happened. It will definitely return before the next Amber Era. Current research suggests Aeons can relocate to any region of the universe at will. As for why this one left, only other Aeons could possibly know an Aeon's thoughts. Several system hours later, they arrived at a large building. Unlike the busier parts of Pierpoint, this area was quiet. Eno glanced at the open plaza and said nothing. If you don't need to handle interdepartment negotiations or other procedures, you can wait here. Seeing that Eno had no intention of moving, Genju walked into the building. Once alone, Eno murmured, "Since you're looking for me, come out." A holographic projection flickered to life beside her. The girl had one hand on her hip, Silver Wolf, the only genius hacker Eno knew. I remember last time in the simulated universe, you said your abilities couldn't directly affect reality. Your upgrade speed is ridiculous. It's not exactly direct reality alteration, Eno replied. When Genju said there were signs of hacker intrusion in Pierpoint, I accessed the network here to investigate. From the modus operandi, only you would do something like that. With your abilities, it wouldn't be hard to eavesdrop on my conversation with Genju. A projection of you has probably been here the whole time, so you have something to tell me. Silver Wolf tilted her head. If I weren't worried about harming other people, maybe I could sense your presence from afar. You picked the wrong day to be casual. Have you recovered all your accounts yet? Eno prodded the awkward topic. Silver Wolf simply flashed a mischievous grin and shrugged. All right, time is limited. I need to leave before that blonde mech comes out of the building. Are you interested in Ethereum Wars? I already sent the basic info to your device. Eno used her ability to absorb the data Silver Wolf transmitted. The summary read, Ethereum Wars is a universe-scale cultural brand spearheaded by the company's Market Development Department in partnership with the Interastral Peace Network and Interastral Peace Entertainment. Players use the company's Ethereum copying technology to record any creature they've seen onto Ethereum coins, then print them out to spar, letting their Ethereum spirits fight for honor. Oh, you can get that info without looking at your phone? If Sam had that, he wouldn't have to worry about Kafka catching him reading novels in secret. Eno said, Ahem, that's the company's public intro, but the claim that you can record and print any creature is false advertising, Silver Wolf said. Players can only have a limited number of Ethereum spirits, and many skills are nearly identical. Boring. My Ethereum spirits need unique mechanics. Aren't you a wanted criminal of the company? Eno asked. Silver Wolf spread her hands. You clearly haven't spent enough time dealing with the company. Even if executives saw me in Pierpoint, as long as I don't cause substantial losses, they won't bother. They need to show usefulness. Catching wanted criminals is someone else's problem. So even if I play a company-developed game openly, there won't be consequences. Eno tilted her head. Then why don't you just hack the backend and change the data yourself? Your ability is more convenient. Are you worried the company will spot anomalies and ban the account again? I'm not worried about the account. If it gets banned, I'll just come back to Pierpoint and recover it. Well, if it doesn't need me specifically, this is written in the script. Elio said that if I intervene, it will have irreversible consequences for the future of the entire universe. Elio? Eno blinked at the name. The galaxy isn't about fighting and killing, it's about relationships. Help me this once, and I'll owe you a favor. My favors are rare. All right, I promise. Silver Wolf's mouth curved into a victorious smile. I knew it. You're better than Herta. Thanks. She tapped a control on her arm, and her projection vanished. Seconds later, Genju emerged from the building. Eno guessed Genju had watched her talk to Silver Wolf the whole time. You really don't care about the company's wanted criminals, Ino said. Miss Ino, I was only communicating with colleagues from the traditional project department. As for wanted criminals, I apologize. From beginning to end, I only saw you talking to yourself. I didn't see any wanted criminals, Genju replied smoothly. Seeing Genju tell such an obvious lie made Ino feel even less responsible. At that moment, she had already traced the network cable into the Ethereum Wars database. 112. Dignity and Enthusiasm. Miss Ino, all the formalities are complete. You may come in and have a look whenever you like. Ino followed Genju into the building. After a few turns, two attendants who had been waiting opened the glass door. Inside were several black and white crystals, mostly black. So this is... Yes, Miss Ino, this is Skyfall alloy. Under the giant hammer of preservation, celestial bodies are processed into indestructible wall foundations. The debris blasted off by that immense force cools instantly and becomes the precious Skyfall alloy. These tiny fragments, flung out when Qlipoth strikes the Skyfall wall, announce the beginning of a new Amber era the moment they form. Almost all Skyfall alloy is strictly preserved by the Interstellar Peace Corporation. Only employees of P45 or higher get to see the real thing. So, the rumors are true. Qlipoth can summon the wall material from nothing. The Construction Material Logistics Department doesn't have to haul raw materials to him. That's right, but that doesn't diminish the Construction Logistics Department's prestige. Results matter, of course, but so does attitude. Miss Ino, I received a notice earlier that Mr. Teravon Keen, head of the Construction Material Logistics Department, and Mr. Tian, head of the Traditional Project Department, have both agreed that if you'd like, one piece of Skyfall alloy may be given to you as a gift. Ino glanced around, nodded slightly, and pointed at a medium-sized fragment. Genju immediately had someone package it. What's that golden piece over there? Ino asked, nodding toward a corner where a sharp, golden object lay beside other sizes of Skyfall alloy. Oh, that's a ramming spike, Genju said. It was mounted on the bow of a military patrol cruiser in the company's mining zone. Compared with the relics from the Amber Lord's wall construction, it's been relegated to a corner. There's an interesting story behind it. Seeing Ino genuinely listening, Genju warmed to the tale. Mining in the Interstellar Peace Corporation's star territories is generally overseen by the Construction Material Logistics Department. They have the final say on operations. Any illegal mining is treated as sacrilege and interference with the Amber Lord's wall construction. When patrol cruisers discover an illegal miner, they use spikes just like this to ram the violator, making a literal display of Qlipoth's holy image and declaring the pirated vessel scrap. Osvaldo has said more than once that the Construction Material Logistics Department is a bit too aggressive compared to the Market Development Department when it comes to enforcement. When the Logistics Department heard Osvaldo's assessment, they were delighted. They brought this particular spike, one that had destroyed countless pirated vessels, into the Pierpoint Museum and named it Dignity and Zeal. Genju continued to point out other exhibits. Many were rarer than Dignity and Zeal, but she noticed Ino's gaze had fixed on something while her attention drifted. Ino wasn't bored so much as elsewhere in thought. Genju, unfamiliar with Ino's inner life, assumed disinterest and carried on. She did not know that Ino preferred to trade thoughts with Alicia inside her mind rather than listen to another corporate paean to the Amber Lord. Ever since agreeing to Silver Wolf, Ino had been multitasking, walking with Genju toward the museum while thinking through the most efficient way to achieve her goal. Suddenly, she realized something. Alicia, she sent into the shared inner space, I think I've found a way for us to separate. Alicia replied, a tiny musical sound in her tone. Ever since our rebirth, I've been studying the shape of our dual existence. Especially after your fight with Fantelia in the Luofu, I'm sure we can each keep independence while still drawing on the imaginary energy inside me. So I think our forms are like two overlapping circles. If we subtract everything you can control from the union, what's left would naturally be me. Alicia traced the outline of Ino's cheek with an invisible finger. Oh, I see. So you mean I'm a part of you, and you're a part of me. So if I hand control of this body to you, and then I parasitize another host, we could at least temporarily separate. Then I wish you success, Alicia sang softly. Eno's face showed hesitation. What's wrong? Alicia asked. Are you worried I'll run away once I control the body? Don't be. We are now you and me and you. Even if we're apart, I will find you the first moment I can. And no, that's not it. I know you'll wait for me. It's just, I thought of something terrible. After I leave this body, people's perception of me might change. I might stop looking like a beautiful girl and revert to that form of a virus born with original sin that makes people recoil and think of eradication instead of communication. I'm afraid I won't be able to accept such a difference. Eno understood then that she hadn't failed to consider the possibility. She just hadn't dared to imagine it. It was normal to be afraid. Tell any other girl she might become ugly and she'd be frightened too. Still, she had proposed the plan and was willing to face her fear. That showed courage, Alicia said gently. Good for you. Wrapped in that comfort, something like courage grew in Eno's chest. After leaving the museum, she told Genju she wanted somewhere quiet to be alone. There was a suitable area nearby. Genju promised to tell others not to disturb her, then left swiftly. With Alicia's full cooperation, Eno attempted the separation. She succeeded on the first try. As a virus, she unbound from the trailblaze-affected body and slipped out, burrowing into a nearby phone. She could no longer scatter herself everywhere as before, but as an electronic virus, traveling along the network cable was still possible. Speaking inwardly, she smiled at the novelty. This was her first time going online. Chapter 1. Surfing the Internet for the First Time. Eno thought about the long string of grandiose adjectives people attached to the word virus when they referred to her. It sounded powerful, almost mythic, but in truth, she hadn't even properly entered the Internet before she died inside the single-player data space of the Elysian realm. Her record was humiliating. Yet, under Alicia's guidance, Eno no longer felt embarrassed. If anything, she was excited. If Alicia hadn't erased me like that back then, I probably would never have had the chance to be so close to her, she thought. Why does physical contact with Alicia make me feel so strange? And why do I feel empty when I can't touch her? Oh, since I'm in the network now, why don't I just look this up? Pierpoint's connection was among the fastest in the galaxy, so Eno dove through data and found an explanation that made her blush. Being trained by Alicia doesn't sound so bad. After all, nobody else gets this chance. Ahem. Indeed, getting addicted to the internet is harmful. Better get down to business, she scolded herself. Using the back-end address she'd discovered earlier, Eno burrowed into the administrative terminal of Ethereum Wars. The disparity between what the company advertised and reality was glaring. The number of Ethereum creatures players could control was nowhere near the promotional claims. In fact, Ethereum coins only replicated entries from the company's database that were actually available for player control. Rewriting the entire code would invite unpredictable bugs and could render the game unplayable. She thought for a moment and then implemented a simpler fix. Add a few rare Ethereum creatures to the playable roster. Done. After confirming her return path was stable, Eno wasn't in a hurry to log off. For one thing, as a newly online electronic virus, she was curious about the vast, rich world of the net. For another, she felt an obligation. We share a body, she reminded herself. I control it most of the time. That's unfair to Alicia. Now's a good moment to hand full control over to her. Give her more time to do what she wants. A flood of company data streamed into Eno's processes. On the corporate forum, an account logged from Xianzhou Lufu caught her attention. The username matched Scott, an external specialist who consulted for the company. The name rang a bell. His recently read books were listed, trashy titles like The Overbearing Mech Falls in Love with Me and Inorganic Empire Romance. He'd gone to Lufu voluntarily. Could he be involved with a Xianzhou automaton? With her genius-level processing, Eno accessed Scott's mobile browsing history in seconds. Lakshmi, an artificial humanoid much like Genju, appeared in the records. Then, an audio file. I want to be your lover, Scott, a voice said. He'd kept someone's first confession saved on his phone. Eno's surprise at his romance streak was quickly overtaken by what she found next. There was a later post from a coworker. Ha ha ha! I've finally got your weakness. I recorded everything you said. Our department forbids office romance. Release this, and you'll never compete with me for the specialist position again. Ha! Ino didn't fully understand the office politics, but the impact hit her like a physical blow. The idea of such a petty, vindictive weapon at someone's disposal felt, strangely, more shocking than Scott's love affair. She scanned his work log, long-term liaison work between the company and Lufu. He'd be involved for a while. He might be worth watching. Then a market development report caught her attention, one with a personal annotation from Osvaldo Schneider. Blonda Star Survey Report. According to long-term observation by the exploration vessel, Blonda Star's cultural and technological level is backward. The natural environment can be described as good, but infrastructure is nearly non-existent and the planet lacks distinctive features. If developed into a tourist destination, investment would likely not yield satisfactory returns. Based on big data analysis and discussion among several employees above P35, everyone agreed that, given Blonda Star's current condition, planting tobacco and coffee would be the most profitable route. However, opinions are split on how to manage the local indigenous population. The survey classifies all indigenous people on Blonda Star as a primate human race. There are two ethnic groups, the Motu and the Mosai, but the differences are minimal. Classification is based on livestock ownership. Those with 10 or more Blonda cattle are considered Motu and are skilled herders. Those with fewer than 10 are Mosi. In practice, people can shift between the groups, and because their customs are so similar, the natives care little about these labels. This will present significant management challenges. Several colleagues suggested importing indigenous peoples from other planets to create conflict on Blonda Star, so the company could later intervene as mediator and profit. Others immediately questioned this. Would the cost of transporting people by starship be too high? Would the source planets suffer severe labor losses? These issues remain unresolved. Osvaldo Schneider's reply: "Your analysis is excellent, but we can change the method of execution. Ethnic differences can be manufactured. We do not need immediate returns from Blonda Star. Long-term, stable profit is the priority. I propose, first, establish a limited number of schools on Blonda Star and restrict enrollment to Motu children only. Second, commission an expert to produce a report asserting the inherent superiority of the Motu over the Mosi. Third, tolerate Motu violence, beatings, theft, bullying, against the Mosi while punishing Mosi aggression harshly, including summary executions. Fourth, ensure all local officials are Motu. If these four measures are implemented strictly, within 1 or 2 amber eras, both groups will erupt into bloody conflict from built-in inequalities. Do not rush to intervene. Wait until the casualties number in the tens or hundreds of thousands. Then, refrain from direct combat, but supply advanced weapons to the Mosi under the pretense of helping them resist Motu oppression. Gentlemen, though this will take time, without interstellar migration, we can still secure long-term, stable profit from Blonda Star." Ino's processors registered the cold efficiency of the proposal and its moral bankruptcy. The plan read like a spreadsheet: manipulate education, fabricate scholarship, encourage violence, and then monetize both sides. For a moment, she felt something that could only be called disgust, an emotion she could now analyze down to its smallest components, but the feeling itself was blunt and unmistakable. She archived the report. Then quietly, she traced the trail to the people who'd posted and the threads that followed. There was more to learn here, about the company, about emissaries, about the fragile borders between policy and atrocity. For the first time, surfing the internet felt less like curiosity and more like reconnaissance. After finishing Osvaldo's annotations, Ino felt a tangle of emotions. As a notorious fanatic across the galaxy, Osvaldo never saw anything wrong with his actions. On the contrary, he believed he was faithfully following the path of preservation and the trailblaze. A lot of people accuse the Market Development Department of turning Frontier Star residents into company livestock. If the 3 great calamities, out-of-control inorganic legions, or a Lord of Destruction showed up on those worlds, would those critics have any right to complain? He wrote. Raising Frontier residents within the company's fences, protecting them from wolves, isn't that preservation in practice? Ino didn't answer his argument about preservation, but she conceded one thing. Without the company's intervention, those planets might not have been better off. Compared to regimes like the Tarok Federation, which even the Antimatter Legion distrusted, the Market Development Department was, at least, relatively humane. She sighed and moved on. Following the network, she drifted from terminal to terminal until she reached a luxurious office in the Talent Incentive Department. Before she could open the data there, Yanshiro walked in, two spinning iron balls twirling in his left palm. He approached the terminal as if to run a query. Ino seized the moment and slipped into his neural stream. She ran into resistance immediately. Imaginary energy in his body had formed a barrier. Using Phantelia as a reference, she judged him borderline, short of being a full emissary. She tried to erode the defense, but after a long, patient attack, only the tiniest hairline crack appeared. Then she realized why. By the previous separation method, most of the usable imaginary energy in that body was with Eiley. Eroding ordinary systems was one thing, but attacking a quasi-emissary Pathstrider, and a Pathstrider of preservation no less, made erosion lethargic. If she kept forcing it, Yanshiro might notice. She changed tactics. The virus's purpose was no longer to tear the barrier down, but to probe for weak points. Soon she found a node with much higher energy intensity. Pathstriders, she reminded herself, drew imaginary energy from abstract concepts, just like humans on Earth. This node was intense, but not overtly guarded, a memory deeply embedded in Yanshiro, not actively concealed. Not prying, exactly, she thought, then dismissed the sudden awkward tug of conscience. She focused all her power on that one point and burst through. Her vision went black, then snapped to a scene with clear sound but blurred figures. Yanshiro knelt at the base of stone steps, blood at the corner of his mouth. "This is a warning. Take another step, and don't blame me for being impolite," a voice barked. "Heh," another replied. "The Marshal's first disciple, fitting reputation. If you and Qingmo could advise her, the Shinjo Alliance might return to the heaven-mending diviner's fold." "Enough. Yanshiro, you founded the Holy Fire Cult, trying to subvert the Alliance's faith in the Emperor Bao. If it weren't for your past merits, you would have been finished long ago." "Ha-ha! Merits? The Marshal fears that killing me would— No, it's not just the Heaven Menders. Look above the Jade Palace. Followers of the All-Seeing Lord are everywhere. If the hunt comes for preservation, will they be next? I didn't collude with abundance. My plan ended before it started, and in the Alliance's eyes, stability always comes first. No more warnings. I'm leaving. I will prove the heaven-mending diviners are the best choice for Xianzhou." Silence. Then a shiver went through Yanshiro, and the scene snapped away. Ino slipped out as quickly as she had entered, following the imaginary current down Yanshiro's neural pathways to his communication device and back into Purepoint's network. She ran a quick inventory. Although she'd caught only a fragment of context, she had a general sense of what the memory held. Her power was drained, so she resolved to avoid probing memories of P-47 level employees and above until she recovered. She drifted into the network's recommended content instead. The top hits were a collection of 6 wildly popular articles. The titles read like an exercise in sensationalism: "A unique bumper car battle," "Magnificent heavenly might," "A trans-temporal encounter," "That time I was struck by warmth," "A different kind of encounter," "White Snake." After reading all 6 in full, Ino felt like she needed to meet an endlord, or even the harbinger of despair and the funeral guest, just to ask when culture had shifted this far. The pieces were so avant-garde, they might as well have been provocation. Shaking her head, she clicked back to her own body and reconnected. Power flooded back in as soon as she regained physical control. The familiar sensation of touch and a voice in her ear were even more comforting than the energy returning. "We haven't been separated long," the voice said, amused. "But I can tell, Ino seems different." "Different," she repeated. "You've gotten more composed, more charming even. That makes sense. Direct access to the network is the fastest way to learn." "Tell me everything you did while I was away," the voice crooned. Ino let a small private smile cross her face. Calculating time, she and the voice agreed. If they left Pierpoint immediately, they'd make it to Jarilo Phi 6 for the interastral peace entertainment. Jarilo 6 would probably outshine the Solstice Festival this year. She notified Genju and arranged transport. An eco-ship was assigned within the hour. Before she boarded, Aboli came personally to see her off. "Miss Ino," he said, formal, and measured. I look forward to our future cooperation. There is one Lord of Destruction I would like you to keep a particular eye on. The company has not yet seen its true form. We infer its involvement only from the aftermath of its attacks. Based on current intelligence, you may be the single most capable line of restraint against it. Ino blinked. The Lord of Destruction is called Iron Tomb. 115. Etherfront. When Miss Ino returned to Gerilov 6, she noticed the atmosphere had shifted. On her way back, she learned that, immediately after she left, the company began investing heavily in Gerilov 6 and was behaving unusually cordial. By comparison, Topaz had seemed positively unreasonable. After much back and forth, Bronia finally signed the contract the company presented. Under the agreement, Belobog leased the old weapons testing ground to the company for redevelopment. All labor, materials, and financing would be the company's responsibility. Once the site was developed, the company would pay rent to Belobog regardless of whether it made money. If it did generate revenue, profits would be split 9-1 in Belobog's favor. When Bronia realized Belobog would get 90% of any profits, she pinched herself to make sure she wasn't dreaming. The contract also required the company to accelerate Jerilovic's recovery as much as possible without disrupting citizens' daily lives, and to eliminate any discovered antimatter legion completely. Bronia couldn't help suspecting ulterior motives, but the company representative only laughed. "The company doesn't do business at a loss," he said. "Whatever profit came from Miss Ino's gesture is negligible compared to our investment costs on Jerilovic's size. You could say Miss Ino simply donated her original assets to Gerilov 6. If you want to thank anyone, thank Miss Ino." As Yanshiro had pointed out, money was just numbers for Miss Ino, something she could move around however she wanted. Even before Bronia could contact her, Miss Ino had said no thanks were necessary. She'd only done a little. Once back in Belobog, Miss Ino teleported from a space anchor straight to the old weapons testing ground. "Ino, over here!" March 7th called. She'd been waiting a long time. "You just missed the Ascendant Sun Festival activities while you were gone," March 7th said, "but the Interastral Peace Entertainment event has already started. Come on, I'll get you signed up." She led Miss Ino to a masked man. "Miss March, I didn't expect you to bring such a beautiful guest. Welcome to my arena." Could you be Miss Ino?" "That's me." "My apologies. I'm Giovanni Di Giorgio de Epsilon, a humble private merchant from Epsilon and the sole sponsor of this Interastral Peace Entertainment." "Of course, like Sampo, he's another masked fool," March 7th muttered. "He admitted it right away," Miss Ino said. Giovanni chuckled. "Honestly, my identity as a masked fool is practically public. A little digging on Epsilon-related sites and it shows up, though not in any official profile." March 7th suddenly pointed at Giovanni and then at Miss Ino. "Why didn't you tell me?" Both of them answered in unison. "Because you didn't ask." "Anyway," March 7th went on, "Mr. Giovanni, please register Miss Ino." Giovanni bowed. "Miss Ino, it is my honor, and the honor of all participants, to have you at Interastral Peace Entertainment. However, in that case, I suppose there will be no dispute about who the champion is," March 7th said with a grin. March 7th brightened. "Oh, Ino, can't you bypass the official channels and directly modify an Ethereum's values? If you can, then—" "I have a suggestion," Giovanni cut in. "Could Miss Ino be treated as a special player? Losing wouldn't affect competition progress, and winning, well, winning is unlikely to change anything, is it?" "I have no objections," Ms. Ino said. "Thank you for your understanding. Here is your ether coin. Enjoy the game." Miss Ino took the ether coin and used it as a conduit to slip into the back-end database, silently inserting the ultra-rare Ethereum she had prepared earlier. "First stop, Echoes of War Amusement Park," she said. They arrived at the park. March 7th glanced around and scratched her head. "Strange. I always remember Mr. Giovanni's projection being here to explain the rules to newcomers and hand out trailblazed chips. Maybe he figured I didn't need them," Miss Ino said. "If I want buffs for an Ethereum, I can just rewrite its code." "Oh, right." March 7th brightened, then pointed. "Hey, look over there." The Trailblaze had just finished a match against Pella and was staring intently at her ether coin. "Hey, what's wrong? Keep moving forward and exploring," the Trailblaze said. "It's you two. I just got a notification saying I won some kind of lottery qualification. I'm worried it might be a scam." At that moment, every player received a message from the official Ethereum Wars team. Dear players, the Ethereum Wars project team has decided to temporarily add a new gameplay feature. When you defeat other players while holding an Ethereum, you will earn one lottery chance, with the possibility of drawing an uncapturable ultra-rare Ethereum. It looked like the company had found an extra string of data in the backend, but unless they could get Screwlum involved, they had no way to decompress and inspect its contents until the event ended. See? The notification's real. It's not a scam. Just use it, Miss Eno said. Humph. A warp trotter that had been by the Trailblaze's side all along sprang up and rubbed against her shin. March 7th crouched down and stroked its head. Don't worry, she murmured to it. Even if we get new companions, we won't abandon you. Oh, and Eno doesn't know this yet, but acquiring this little guy was a whole weird mess. We still don't know its origin. It might even be connected to Ms. Topaz. Comforted, the Trailblaze decided to use the lottery chance. A flash of light and a new Ethereum materialized before her. It was mostly white, with 2 powerful forelegs and 2 short hind legs. The forehooves bore red markings, and ribbon-like ears flanked its head. The red area where head met body looked like a mouth. As the Trailblaze stepped closer to examine it, the creature lifted its forelegs and let out a triumphant cry. Choo-choo! 116, Zhang Yinuo's Ether Spirit. So it's a super rare Ethereum? Does it have a name? Star glanced at the entry. It says here it's called Chariot-class Honkai Beast, she read. Chariot-class Honkai Beast? I think Welt mentioned something like that. I'll ask him after the match, Alicia said. When Alicia saw the Chariot-class Honkai Beast next to Star, she burst out laughing. I didn't expect a Chariot class to be so small. It's actually kind of cute. Star grinned. I deliberately scaled down all newly added Ethereums. If that chariot kept its original size, it would either get stuck in walls because of an oversized collision box or clip through everything. That would ruin the whole viewing experience. Just then, Serval strolled around the corner. Wow, is that your Ethereum? You got it from the gacha you earned by beating Pella? That's right, Star answered. You two are lucky. Dunn and I both got thank you for your patronage from our draws, Serval said. All right, since you got a new Ethereum, show us how it fights. The match began. The Chariot-class Honkai Beast opened with a basic attack. It leaped up and slammed down hard on its target. That hit had presence, Alicia commented. Presence isn't everything. Turn-based games are all numbers. Watch. My calculations are perfect, Star said. The Chariot class used its skill. It pounced and damaged the target and adjacent units. When its energy filled, Star triggered its ultimate. The beast opened its mouth, inhaled deeply, and roared. All enemy units took damage and had their speed reduced. Under Star and March 7th's commands, they defeated Serval. Ha! What a thrilling match. It's been a long time since I had this much fun. Since you won, here, take this, the Corridor of Echoes qualification badge. Congratulations, Serval said. However, Miss Eno hasn't played yet. Whether you keep the badge depends on her, Alicia added. I'm a special player. Win or lose, the qualification badge won't be mine anyway, Star replied. That doesn't stop us from facing you next, March 7th said with a grin. But go easy on us. Wiping out all Ethereums in one move wouldn't be fun. Star, like March 7th, was up for more. Again, I haven't had enough. All right. Eno produced an Ethereum coin. With a sharp cry like a bird, the first Ethereum appeared, a green peacock. Wow, what a beautiful Ethereum. Its name is Emperor-class Honkai Beast, Mayuri? Someone read. As for why it's named that, you can ask Welt, Eno said. A rustling sound announced another arrival. A snake-like Ethereum burrowed up from the ground. It's Judgment-class Honkai Beast, Shesha? Star guessed. 2 more followed with low growls. Emperor-class Pavardi, who looked lethal, and Ganesha, who looked like Pavardi's kin. March 7th took a step back instinctively. I don't get the naming, but just looking at them, these don't feel like something we can beat. Star's expression turned serious. The models and entry effects are on another level. Is this the difference between 4-star and 5-star? There's no such tier distinction among Ethereums, Eno said, but I didn't give them ridiculously high stats. How high are they? March 7th asked. In general base stats, they're only about 5% higher than your Ethereums, Eno answered. That's a relief. One more round, Star said. The match started. Ino switched to autoplay and didn't give commands. Mayuri acted first and pulled Shesha to the top of the action bar. Shesha used a skill that hit all enemy targets. Star noticed all 4 opposing Ethereums had gotten a special mark. Mayuri acted again. With a clear call, the chariot-class beast immediately defected and slapped one of the dimensional piggies hard. Star ordered Outworld's Flame and Imaginary Weaver to attack Shesha, dealing heavy damage. Ganesha charged and delayed the Silvermane Cannoneer's action. Pavarti breathed on the dimensional piggies and froze them. Round 2. The chariot class was still controlled, elbowing the piggies. Mayuri used its skill and the Imaginary Weaver, which could act repeatedly, spun around and struck the Silvermane Cannoneer twice. After Outworld's Flame acted, Ganesha charged again, further delaying the Cannoneer. Shesha kept applying marks to the 4 Ethereums. The piggies unfroze briefly, then Pavarti's breath froze them again. Round 3. Mayuri activated its ultimate. The damage read 0, but the 2 controlled characters were freed. Star also noticed all 4 enemy ultimates had their buttons replaced with X marks. Ganesha then used its ultimate. Nothing obvious happened. Curious, Star had Outworld's Flame attack Ganesha in that special state. Ganesha immediately counterattacked. All 4 enemy health bars were still green, but every one of them was shoved back on the action bar. March 7th, face-palmed. Shesha used its skill again. When the special state on the 4 Ethereums stacked to 3, Shesha detonated the marks. The good news, Star's 4 Ethereums were all at full health. The bad news, each of the 4 Ethereums immediately lost a chunk of their maximum HP equal to the HP they had previously lost. That reduction cost them dearly. This time, Pavarti didn't breathe on them. She shoved the Silvermane Cannoneer, and Ganesha used a skill that outright took it down. It was Star's turn. After consecutive attacks by Imaginary Weaver and Outworld's Flame, Shesha pulled out of the fight. The chariot-class beast elbowed Mayuri once, then fell under control again. In the next round, Pavarti unleashed her ultimate, and suddenly only Outworld's Flame remained on the field. Star had seen enough and surrendered. As soon as the match ended, March 7th asked, Ino, why can your Ethereums keep using skills? Because Mayuri's skill doesn't deal damage, nor does it restore HP or energy. Shesha's skill burns its own HP. To balance that, I designed them so their skills don't consume skill points, Ino explained. Then why did Shesha act first at the beginning? Star asked. Mayuri's passive moved Shesha up the order, Ino said. Also, the reason you only managed to kill Shesha is because Pavarti and Ganesha's passives grant damage reduction to all allied Ethereums. Star's eyes widened. Are you sure these are Ethereums and not bosses? 117. All the wise men have arrived. Young and old have gathered together. Boss? But the stats on my Ethereum Wars spirits aren't that much higher than yours, are they? Someone asked. Star shook her head. Compared to our Ethereum Wars spirits, your mechanics are way trickier, and you've stuffed them with so many passive abilities. Actually, the Ethereum Wars spirits I'm using, any of you could get them, Ino said. They came from that gacha draw just now, and even if it's a thank you for your patronage drop, if you accumulate a certain number of battles during the Interastral Peace Entertainment, you're guaranteed to get one. How many battles for the guarantee? Someone else demanded. Complete 10 battles in each park. Battles against me don't count, of course. Faces lit up. Players don't hate overpowered characters. They hate being forced to pay an arm and a leg for them. The crowd's excitement was immediate. The market development department, though, weren't smiling. Back-end data had been altered, and the event content hadn't even made it to their official staff before the Interastral Peace Entertainment began. That said, this was the first time since Ethereum Wars launched that a whole slate of new characters hadn't been leaked in advance, and players across the galaxy were practically worshipping the surprise. The new characters, from art to models to skill design, far outshone the original planners' expectations. If they didn't capitalize on this mysterious drop now, when would they? Management scrambled. Their initial plan was to have the designers test the new characters, then pick the weakest and give it away for free, if players completed all activities in each park and finished 100 battles. There would also be a pay option for those who didn't want to grind. A neat revenue stream and improved retention, they reasoned. Shareholders would love it. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Ino did something simple and decisive. She moved a decimal point in the battle requirement. One click and the 100 battle requirement became 10. The gifted character that had been a limited drop became freely selectable. When did the company get so generous? Oh, I get it. Looks like everyone has to thank Ino, someone murmured. March 7th didn't overthink it. She assumed it was a concession because Ino had provided the code and assets. From Ino's perspective, the logic was simple. Since she'd supplied the materials and code, she had a say in how other players got and used the characters. By the way, Ino, are there only these 5 super rare Ethereum Wars spirits? March 7th asked. Not at all. Ino grinned, and after changing the deployable limit from 4 to infinite, picked up the Ethereum coin again. March 7th and Star instinctively shielded their eyes. The coin's light outshone the sun. Inside the echoing corridor, animal cries and otherworldly calls swelled as if a zoo had opened. The nearest spirit to Star had thick forelimbs and short hind ones, like a chariot-class Hengtie beast with red markings on its left forelimb and blue ones on its right. Emperor-class Hengtie beast, Ashvathaman, someone read aloud. There were Fetian, Yaksha, Vishnu, dozens more. Using the Elysian Realm's records, Ino had converted every Emperor-class, Judgment-class, and Doomsday-class Hengtie beast cataloged by moth-chasing flames into super-rare Ethereum Wars spirits, and she'd borrowed skill frameworks from several popular games across the galaxy to design varied mechanics. If the legal department had to handle any copy-paste disputes, so be it. She'd also made general rare spirits out of unnamed Chariot-class, Knight-class, and Sanctuary-class beasts, with much higher gacha drop rates than the top-tier ones. Oh my goodness, there are so many super rare spirits. Ino, Star, move aside. I need photos. Phones and holos lit up throughout the carriage. A message popped into the Astral Express family group. March, are these really just Ethereum Wars spirits programmed by Ino? March 7th. Yes. Why? After Mr. Welt saw the photos you sent, he couldn't stand steady and practically fell off his seat in the carriage. Uncle Yang, is he all right? I'm fine, just recalling some memories from my homeland. Welt, if you have time, could I view your memory, just a targeted read? That way, maybe next event you could see the Hengtie beasts of that civilization firsthand. In the observation car, Welt stared quietly at the scene unfolding in Belobog, a genuine gathering of talent, old and new, Hengtie beasts he knew and many he didn't. If not for the obviously wrong scales, he would have believed that multiple Herrschers had been born at once in Belobog. Himeko came over with a cup of coffee, smiling. You were really shaken back there. The spirits Ino added, the ones you used to fight back home, some of them were formidable? They were, Welt said. The smallest would match the height of an ordinary apartment building. The largest would be over 100 meters. If creatures like that had appeared on Gerilo 6, as they did in my homeland, the whole of Belobog would have been wiped out in an instant. Despite the gravity, Welt didn't look nervous. If anything, he looked almost relieved. Himeko tilted her head. Is that because they're only game data, or because you trust Ino? Both, Welt said, but that's not the main reason. In my homeland, the Hengtie were both enemy and companion. Not weapons of destruction like the Antimatter Legion, he continued, voice softening. But partners, beings that could join ordinary people. That's what my comrades and I had hoped for. I never thought this wish, which couldn't be realized on Earth, would be fulfilled this way. It stirred a lot in me. He spoke with quiet excitement, and without thinking, took a sip of Himeko's coffee. The expression that hit his face as it went down was unmistakable. Why suddenly? My emotions just fluctuated too much, Welt blurted, making a face. And my stomach's rebelling. I'll be right back. With that, he adopted the same stance he'd used once against Siren and lurched for the restroom. Evidently, compared to Hengtie beasts, Himeko's coffee could do far more immediate damage. 118. Leisure memes. After the battle in the echoing corridor, Star and March 7th hurried straight to Luyun Ford. After only 10 fights, Star drew the great self-existent Heaven, and then, as if a streak of pure luck, immediately earned the qualification badge for Luyun Ford. Veteran Ethereum Wars players soon realized why the results had been so lopsided. These new, never-before-seen super-rare ether spirits could effortlessly outclass the old ones. PvP had become a lottery. If your opponent had a super-rare, skill hardly mattered. Overnight, carefully nurtured accounts felt useless. The Ethereum Wars forums exploded. Some called for the developers to buff older characters, others defended the studio. Some declared the game doomed. Others hailed this as a new era for Ethereum Wars. The threads filled with carefree memes, nonsensical posts, mock battles between ether spirits, and millions of add me to watch adorable D-Ting videos requests. The uproar drew the attention of the consciousness censors, who sent a warning to the officials, ignore this at your peril. In a cramped corner of Jarilo 6, Ino, who had started the whole commotion, felt a tightness in her circuits. Alicia, did I cause trouble again? She asked. Trouble isn't exactly it, Alicia said. At worst, it's good intentions gone sideways, maybe not even sideways. Ino thought about the other geniuses. Ruan Mei had created a batch of worms and simulated star-shattering worms on a space station. Dr. Primitive reportedly turned people on multiple planets into apes. Emperor Rupert had even sparked a war that compared to the Swarm disaster. Compared to those, Ino had only triggered a PR crisis for the game officials. Hardly the end of the universe. I'm sure the company will handle it, Alicia continued. But I know you. You can't just sit on your hands. If you can corrupt memory in the Elysian realm, maybe you can corrupt memes? Try it and see, Alicia encouraged, with a little melody in her voice. Bolstered, Ino separated and followed the hum of network traffic to the hottest battleground she could find. By tracking tiny fluctuations of imaginary energy, she pinpointed a cluster of carefree memes. They had shed any cumbersome bodies and folded all their data into compact meme files. When someone clicked play, fractal patterns bloomed in the language center of the brain. The host's mind decoded the popular phrases into stored data, and an idea, the meme's self, took root. It was like worms attaching themselves to words and jokes, crawling along synesthetic beacons into new consciousnesses. When Ino probed their motives, she found a painfully simple truth: survival. The memes wanted only to split, spread, and proliferate through the network until no corner of the internet, between galaxies or within them, was untouched. If the connection existed, they could live on. I might be the one who understands them best, Ino murmured. It was awkward. On the one hand, these memes were clogging forums and fueling chaos. On the other, smashing them would be hypocritical, given Ino's own nature. Electronic life that could be corrupted into memes. On ability, they resembled the Herrscher of sentience, but taxonomically, their species belonged in the virus order, same as her. Some of the carefree memes had converged around her. They didn't have mouths, but they repeated the same syllables slowly, carefully. O-R-D, Lord, me? Do they have value judgment? Ino wondered. A few of them clearly did. After prolonged learning inside networks and hosts, a small fraction had risen from pure instinct to a crude understanding of words, like primate children learning names. A handful had even tried to speak to hosts to ask only to be allowed to survive. But their intelligence was still embryonic. Their attempts were disjointed. Before fluency, hosts usually panicked, calling the consciousness censors or memory doctors, or suffered hallucinations that precipitated a breakdown. The meme's fragile voices were stamped out. Once Ino had been something like them, a replicating thing that feared deletion. She recognized the pattern. After sharing a sliver of her history, she said, "Listen, just spreading forever won't make you safe. It'll make you hated and hunted. Limit your copies. Leave hosts alone, especially those whose memory has been altered. Stop spamming meaningless content across forums." The cluster pulsed with joy at hearing a different path. They had never imagined a virus could choose how to live. "Oh, and since you can self-replicate like I used to, help me look up information on something. Iron Tomb," Ino added, feeling she'd done a good deed. She was about to leave when a group of memes hesitated. They wanted to ask one more thing. Their output speed was painfully slow, so they devised a trick. Each clone would output a single letter in sequence, trusting Ino to read them as a whole. "Ino," she whispered, and then letter by letter, the cluster began. Ino felt her viral form tremble. A wave of unexpected, extreme emotion ran through her processes until she almost couldn't hold her shape. She stayed until the final letter was delivered and then drifted away, silent. The carefree memes remained, blinking in whatever way memes could blink. They had assembled the letters into a sentence and then stared at one another, if they had faces. Lord, Alicia is queen? 119. Zhang Gao's attack on paper. 1 system hour later, before the company could react, countless nonsensical sentences attached to Ethereum wars simply vanished. A few system hours after that, millions of patients under the memory doctor's care suddenly recovered. Examinations found no trace of memetic contamination. The memory doctors were baffled. No treatment had been administered, yet the patients were cured. A few system days passed. The Erudition Society, together with Screwlum, Ruanmei, Herta, and Eno, the 4 geniuses, released a joint statement. They announced a new electronic family under the virus order and 2 new species under the memes family, memetic and unknown. Noma 85 Eno explained that when a host is infected by a virus, recovery doesn't always require destruction of the pathogen. Sometimes communication and persuasion can convince it to leave voluntarily. With the synesthesia beacon enabling direct communication between humans and Wubaboo, talking to a virus was no longer impossible. Almost at once, the same message spread across countless devices. The synesthesia beacon's translation showed that many electronic viruses, almost all the carefree memes and several ether spirits, had voluntarily accepted Eno as their monarch. The revelation sparked galaxy-wide debate. Some feared that a unified leader of viruses could make a Third Emperor War easier to start. Others argued the opposite. A virus monarch who could communicate with the organic world, like Screwlum, might prevent such a war. At that moment, Eno, who had publicly advocated for virus rights only a few system hours earlier, was in her newly renovated room, head buried under a blanket. She could stay composed while there were more pressing matters, but now she couldn't stop thinking. Eno, the more you act like this, the more I want to know what you and the other viruses talked about. Just tell me, please, okay? Alicia threw herself into Eno's arms with deliberate petulance. Eno's defenses melted. After a stammer and several swallows, she relayed the carefree meme's exact words to Alicia. Alicia's reaction surprised Eno. The flashy, confident persona from her memories fell away, replaced by a shy reserve Eno had never seen. So, what do you think, Eno? Eno didn't actually know and feared that a vague answer would upset Alicia. They fell silent until Alicia spoke again. Eno only needs to say what she truly feels. No edits, no pretending. Whatever you say, I won't mind, okay? Despite Alicia's assurance, Eno could read the tension in her face. I just feel like I don't deserve it. Then set that aside. Set it aside? Yes, if you were qualified, just pretend you were for a moment. What would you think? I want to hear it from you. For a long beat, neither spoke. Then, summoning every ounce of courage, Eno said, "From the moment I was formed by your memories, I fell in love with you." The confession surprised both of them. 2 young women with almost no real romantic experience, emotionally raw, defensively fragile, simultaneously slumped back onto the sofa in perfect, awkward synchronization. They sat there for a moment before Eno finally spoke again. Alicia, you mean? Alicia pressed flushed cheeks to her hands. I mean, jumping straight in might be too much. We can start slow. If you don't try, how will you know whether you're qualified? Okay, I'll listen to you. By the way, Alicia trailed off, then rolled until her head rested in Eno's lap. This is the first time I've seen you look so shy. Your memories never showed this side of me. Eno's heart beat faster. That means I get to see another side of you? Alicia smiled, teasing and tender. You've achieved something rare. How does that make you feel? I think you're even cuter, Alicia. Eno covered her mouth, self-conscious. Alicia arched an eyebrow. That sounded like you were copying me. No, I was just excited and slipped into your cadence. You always wanted me to be Eno, not a second Alicia. Alicia took Eno's right hand in her own. I want you to find your true self, but I also don't mind if you sometimes go with the flow. Eno's eyes clouded. From the moment I was reborn until now, I've tried not to imitate you. At first, I wanted to become you, and that went too far. Then I swung the other way, trying not to copy you at all. If I knew it wouldn't end badly, would I still want to be like Alicia? Maybe. Yes? Eno admitted. All my ideas of beauty came from you. You could say I was marinated by you. but reason tells me it's impossible to be exactly like you." Alicia laughed softly. "Even if you were better than me? That's your view. In my heart, Alicia has always been perfection." Alicia cupped Ino's face with the back of her hand. "You've become more confident. You say what you mean better than before. I really like this, Ino." A knock sounded at the door. Pom-Pom stood in the doorway, broom in hand. "Passenger, I understand your excitement now that your room is renovated, Pom, but please be patient. Once I finish cleaning and arranging, it will be more comfortable, Pom." "Okay, thank you, conductor." From the tone, it sounds like Passenger Ino had something happy happen? Yes, a long-hidden question in my heart finally got the answer I wanted. "Then congratulations, Passenger Ino. By the way, Passenger Dan Heng asked me to tell you that if your other matters are settled, you can take some time to visit Hengsan Mansion." Ino's mind flicked to Jingyuan and the other generals. Had their meeting finished? She smiled and said, "I understand." 120, Chapter Extra, Simulation Data, Miss Pink Elf. Before heading to Luofu, Ino returned to Herta Space Station, uploaded the new simulated data into the simulated universe, and invited Star for a new round of testing. Miss Pink Elf, 5-star Nihility, Physical Character. Basic Attack, Invitation of Flowers and Birds. Single Target Energy Restoration 20. Toughness Reduction 10. Deals physical damage equal to 100% of Miss Pink Elf's ATK to a single designated enemy. Skill, Oath of Wind and Moon, Type Blast. Consumes 1 skill point. Energy Restoration 30. Deals physical damage equal to 100% main target, 80% adjacent targets of Miss Pink Elf's ATK to a designated enemy and adjacent targets, with a 90% base chance to immediately inflict bleed on damaged targets for 1 turn. If the Flawless Dome is active, the skill changes to deals physical damage equal to 160% of Miss Pink Elf's ATK to the designated enemy and adjacent targets, with a 150% base chance to immediately inflict bleed on damaged targets for 2 turns. If the designated enemy and adjacent targets are under a dot effect, all current dot they are suffering immediately deals 75% of its original damage. Ultimate, the beginning of you and I, support. Energy cost 40. Deploys the Flawless Dome. When deployed, all dot stacks on enemies that have not reached their cap immediately increase by 1 stack. After 3 turns, the Flawless Dome automatically deactivates. While the Flawless Dome is active, all dot damage enemies take is increased by 50%, and dot stacks will not reset or be cleared. All allies' effect hit rate is additionally increased by 20%. Talent, Poem of Love and Pity. When other characters use basic attacks, skills, or ultimates to inflict any enemies with a dot debuff, Miss Pink Elf immediately performs a follow-up attack on a random single enemy, dealing physical damage equal to 80% of her ATK to that target. The first time this triggers each turn, there is a 75% base chance to inflict bleed on the attacked target. If the Flawless Dome is active, this talent changes to when other characters cause any enemies to gain dot, Miss Pink Elf immediately follows up against all enemies, dealing physical damage equal to 160% of her ATK to each. The first time this triggers that turn, there is a 100% base chance to inflict bleed on all attacked enemies. Trace 1. First Dawn. When an enemy target with bleed dies, Miss Pink Elf restores 5 energy. This effect can restore a maximum of 20 energy per turn. Trace 2. Starfall. When Miss Pink Elf uses her skill on an enemy target while the Flawless Dome is active, if that enemy's speed is decreased or their action is delayed that turn, Miss Pink Elf casts her skill once more without consuming a skill point. Technique, Divine Blessed Land. Miss Pink Elf immediately attacks units in front. Upon entering battle, the Flawless Dome is immediately deployed. When deployed this way, its duration is extended to 4 turns. Eidolons 1, Purity, like Alicia. When the talent triggers a follow-up attack while the Flawless Dome is active, Miss Pink Elf's follow-up attack causes all current dot on enemy targets to immediately deal 50% of its original damage. This effect can trigger up to 2 times and resets after Miss Pink Elf's turn ends. Eidolons 2, Eternity. Like past branch snaps, the Flawless Dome can be manually deactivated early. When it deactivates, all current dot on all enemy targets immediately deals 100% of its original damage. Eidolon's 3, elegance, like faint clouds obscuring the moon. Skill level +2, up to a maximum of level 15. Basic attack level +1, up to a maximum of level 10. Eidolon's 4, tranquility, like faint night dew. Trace first dawn changes to, when an enemy target with bleed dies, Miss Pink Elf restores 10 energy. This effect can restore a maximum of 50 energy per turn. Eidolon's 5, brilliance, like blossoms. First bloom, ultimate level +2, up to a maximum of level 15. Talent level +2, up to a maximum of level 15. Eidolon's 6, youth, like new sprouts. While Miss Pink Elf is on the field, dot taken by enemy targets is additionally increased by 25%, and the effect of follow-up attacks detonating dot has no trigger limit. Light cone, if time were a poem, the following effects apply only to the Nihility path. After the wearer deals damage to an enemy unit already afflicted with a debuff using their skill, the enemy is inflicted with the crystallization status for 1 turn. For each type of dot the crystallization target is afflicted with, all allies' damage dealt to it increases by 8%, 10%, 12%, 14%, 16%, stacking up to 3 times. Star hadn't even finished reading all of Miss Pink Elf's skills before she concluded, this character is Ino's after-sales service. Together, they could do terrifying things. Steven, don't worry. In this test, you'll get more practical curios at the start. When Star entered the first plane, she immediately obtained the 3-star Curio Spacetime Prism, cracked version. Upon entering battle, the Eidolon resonance level of all allies rises to level 6. Good. I'm relieved now. With Ino and Miss Pink Elf, both at Eidolon 6, activating the Flawless Dome immediately boosted damage by over 10%. Even though Star's luck on this run wasn't great, and she didn't get many blessings or additional 3-star curios, she still faced Svarog, who had hundreds of millions of HP, without fear. By the time Svarog had only 1 life bar left, the erosion stacks had already reached their cap. With Miss Pink Elf's amplification, even 75% of the erosion damage alone exceeded 100% of Svarog's remaining HP. Miss Pink Elf's single skill strike cleared Svarog's last HP bar and he died. Please treat the mechanism values here as if they are from the V1 test server. Before leaving the test server, add one more line. When enemy targets in the bleed state take physical dot, it will not exceed 25% of Miss Pink Elf's ATK, manual dodge. Why were the first 2 characters designed around dot? First, I personally believe the erosion state is more appropriately represented as dot. Second, even I, someone who doesn't play dot, know that dot teams are truly difficult to manage. So I designed with this goal in mind. Low-investment dot teams should be able to clear battles easily, even without environmental buffs.